It's quite often that we wonder about the senseless destruction of war. But this war in particular will make you ask the question, war, what is it good for? Welcome to American Esoterica. If history class gives you the November 1st, this is the annual fight to restrain Mariah Carey, the essential stuff in between, the personalities, events, and other ephemera that shape our history and culture. I'm Brian Powers. We've already talked about how we almost had a war break out between two states over Toledo, of all things. But if you thought that war was dumb, then oh wow, have I got something for you. Spread out over a few episodes, we're going to talk through a few wars, pseudo-wars, or just plain idiotic battles that showcase just how stupid wars can be. Because war is heck. Today's dumb war? The Pig War of 1859. As with the war over Toledo, the Pig War of 1859 began with a poorly rendered boundary. It should have been easy. The Treaty of Oregon of 1846 set the boundary between British and American territory in westernmost Canada at the 49th parallel, save for Vancouver Island. At that point, the boundary was set as the exact center of the channel that separates Vancouver Island from the mainland. The island there was fully in British hands, the mainland before the 49th parallel was American, and that was that. So, it would be really dumb if it turns out that there was a whole different set of islands, the San Juan Islands, named for the largest island in them, between the mainland and Vancouver, and that there were actually two channels with equal claim to being the channel referenced by the treaty. Nicely done. Of course, the US and Britain, having had a good war about every 30 to 40 years since about 1775, figured they were due. And so each side claimed an interpretation of the treaty that would give them the islands in the middle and full control over the channel closest to their land. But hey, who cares about a few islands? Well, it turns out that the Hudson Bay Company on the Canada side had started a sheep ranch on San Juan Island itself, and discovered they were all pretty great for doing so. The bounty of the islands attracted more settlers, and soon American settlers were among them. The Americans set up shop right in the middle of some prime Hudson Bay Company sheep grazing land, and they assumed that the United States government would validate their claims. The British considered them trespassers, and tempers began to heat up. Things came to a hog's head in 1859 when an American named Lyman Cutler shot a pig rooting in his garden. Just like Wilbur, this was some pig. Specifically, some pig owned by the Hudson Bay Company. The British were furious, threatening to arrest Cutler and evict all Americans from the island. Apparently, they prefer beans on toast to bacon for breakfast. The Americans responded by ordering Captain George E. Pickett to charge his way onto the island. Yes, that George Pickett, the Confederate general. Pickett and 64 soldiers set up camp near a Hudson Bay Company sheep farm. The British sent 3 warships and steadily added more soldiers themselves, until finally the commander of the British naval forces in the Pacific himself arrived and declared the whole thing stupid. He would not involve two great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. Both sides dug in and reinforced. 2.5 months after Bacongate, the American force now numbered close to 500, protected in their camp by 14 field cannons and 8 naval guns, put in place in highly orderly fashion by Lieutenant Henry M. Robert. Yes, that Henry M. Robert. The Robert's Rules of Order guy. The British whiled away the time by using the bluffs of the island for target practice for their assembled warships, which was amusing for tourists and soldiers alike. And the soldiers? Heck, they were just there having fun. It wasn't a particularly huge island, so they mingled regularly. The officers from both sides attended regular church services aboard one of the British gunboats, and they even had an informal officers' club going at a local house where they would gather to drink whiskey and smoke cigars like genuine bros. Like, isn't it stupid that we might have to kill each other over a pig, bro? Totally, bro. It took a good while for word of the San Juan weirdness to reach Washington, and a horrified President James Buchanan dispatched General Winfield Scott on a mission to settle the whole thing. It took Scott a breezy 6 weeks to get there, having to traverse the malaria-ridden Isthmus of Panama on his way. He immediately opened negotiations with the British, agreeing that both sides should withdraw most of their forces, but that there should be a joint occupation of the islands until a final agreement was reached. The American commander who had sent in Pickett was withdrawn and officially rebuked for escalating the situation. It took another 12 years for the parties to agree to an agreement on their disagreement, and the two parties submitted the border dispute formally to the head of a third country, Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany.
No, not that Kaiser Wilhelm. You're thinking of his grandkid.
He submitted it to a 3-man arbitration committee that spent a year relaxing in Geneva before ruling that the San Juan Islands belonged to the United States. Yay! By 1874, 15 long years after it had begun, the Pig War was finally over. The only casualty in this stupid war was the pig. This has been American Esoterica. All sounds are made by me, Brian Powers. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Just want to talk about other wars involving breakfast food? And we will. Drop me a note. The address is yell@americanesoterica.com. More information on the show can be found at americanesoterica.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless America. Oh, yeah. Oh, hello there. Hi. How are you? Do it the full Baldwin. This is the full Baldwin.